key factors that I have witnessed include, I cannot go over many of them, but key of the factors that I have witnessed are three. And the first one is a clear scope and expert editorial board. Under the leadership of the founding president, Professor Brhanu, the society leveraged its experience in publishing and distributing chemistry newsletter prior to launching the Bulletin. In 1984, we established a dedicated task force led by a former staff of the chemistry department, Dr. Eva John, to lay the groundwork. The team clearly defined the journal subject area, scope, and composition of the editorial board, along with rigorous peer review process, all aimed at attracting high-quality submissions. The expert editorial board members, along with their colleagues and collaborators, were key contributors and instrumental to high-quality papers published during the early years. A significant portion of these publications came from staff members based in Ethiopia. This is the first volume and issue 1 of the Bulletin, and when you open the first page, you see my colleague, Professor Chandra, and also Celestio Natorki, an Eritrean MSc student, also my classmate at that time, publishing the first paper. that was a local contribution from the MSc program at that time in the Department of Chemistry. And if you open, you go next on Robert Under. I think he was underrated.
Underrated, yes.
He was also,
MIT. Yes.
yeah, he was also here for something. He was Miami. Robert Under.
Okay.
And then if you go on, you will see our colleagues again, our role models, I would say, from contributions from Professor Brhanu, and Professor Maslani, and also continues with some of their colleagues and collaborators in Germany, Poland, and the like. Another thing that I have witnessed about the early years of the Bulletin of the Chemical Society is for the long-term sustainability of any initiative, including a prestigious journal, is the cultivation of future leaders. Professor Brhanu excelled in this area, demonstrating exceptional leadership in grooming the next generation of editors. His successors, Professor Magid Mamo, Dr. Girma Mogas, and the long-serving editor-in-chief, Professor Chandra Vanshi, worked with him in various capacities such as managing editor, editorial board members, and this ensured a smooth transition of leadership. The second important point that I have witnessed in its early years is indexing and abstracting in major databases. Under Professor Brhanu's leadership, the Bulletin of the Chemical Society of Ethiopia was promptly indexed by Chemical Abstracts in 1987, shortly after its inception. Chemical Abstract is a division of the American Chemical Society and a leading source of chemical information, which began in 1907, well before the launch of other abstracting services such as Web of Science, started in 1997, Scopus started in 2004. Additionally, Professor Brhanu succeeded in having the journal indexed in other indexing services like Chemical Citation Index and Environmental Abstracts. Last and the most important one that I have witnessed during its early years is the dedicated effort in getting sustainable funding. This securing funding for printing is essential when aiming to establish to publish and distribute any publication. Throughout Professor Brahman's leadership, the Bulletin of the Chemical Society of Ethiopia consistently received financial support from the Ministry of Education under the NPTA, they call it Production and Educational Materials Production and Distribution Agency. So that is the three important factors that I have witnessed during the early years of the Bulletin. My role will stop in here, and much will be said, I think, by the Professor Brahman and Professor Chandra. Thank you very much.
Shall I continue? Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Burhan Wadagar, and I have been given so much accolades. I sort of wonder if I measure up to that. But the things that are done are correct. The title that is given to me is the establishment of BSCE and the challenge it had faced. First, can you hear me at the back? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So that from the title, the implication that I got is more like a historical narrative by a known historian, by a chemist, but I will do my best to approach that subject. When we started the journal, Bulletin of the Chemical Society, we were fortunate to have an experience in the faculty because earlier than the journal, the Bulletin, a journal of science called Synod was published. I was not in Synod, but my colleague and longtime friend Emias was the founding editor, and we used to be called Chemistry Watch. You speak the same way, you like whatever, right? Yeah. And so we talked a lot, and I had seen what it really took to have Synod get well founded. So there is a huge benefit that we got from that. The next issue that I'd like to say is, why did we call it the Bulletin? Why not the Journal of Chemistry? What is this? I think this is important. So we started studying the names. What is a journal? What is a dictionary? What is, in fact, journal has a different, even a financial meeting, a financial activity. But when we looked at the bulletin, I saw that a bulletin was described as the details that come from a society. And for that reason, if one was to be very mechanical, one would say bulletin is more appropriate than journal. But I think I must also confess, when you say journal, you see, Journal of the American Chemical Society, Journal of the Chemicals of the UK, etc. One sort of may have a slight fear that can we produce something in that stature. There was that debate. Eventually, we decided to call it a bulletin. But calling it a bulletin was not without the precedent. Bulletin de la Société Chimique de France is a French journal, the society journal. The Japanese also had a bulletin, so we were not really to call our publication a bulletin. It also reminds me, we had a newsletter, Solutions. So the word solution here is like a pun. If you dissolve hydrochloric acid or whatever substance in water, you have a solution. So once I think the American Chemical Society was selling a t-shirt which says, chemists have solutions. But there was no bulletin or journal called Solutions. So when we launched the newsletter, I felt that Solutions was an appropriate name for the bulletin, for the newsletter. So that's how the names came. I think Professor Schmellis filled in some details for me with respect to meeting the financial challenges. I think the title I'm given is what were some of the challenges. So finance was a challenge. In fact, I think I may have expressed this elsewhere, even getting the society registered in the country as a professional society was also a challenge. Probably before the Chemical Society, we may have had the Law Society and the Medical Society. I don't know if there were other professional societies before that. The Medical Society was established during Haile Selassie's time, and I think it was just a charter given to it to do that. In our case, this is Derg time, and we had to go somewhere in western Addis Ababa to an office where you get a license to carry a gun. And that was the same office that was giving a license to have a professional society. I remember coming back to the then Commissioner of Science and Technology, the late Haile Tabuke, when I told him that, we go to the same place where you get a license for a gun to get a license for our society. And he said, don't you know there is an adage that says the pen is mightier than the sword. Eh? So that was what he told me, yeah. I cannot, it would be unfair and a huge neglect if I did not mention Ato Kadir Ibrahim, the role he played in the beginning. I don't know where Kadir is. Is he around? I don't know. Because the very founding of the Chemical Society was at a meeting of about 40 chemists called by the Ministry of Education at the, what did you abbreviated where Kadir was working? Curriculum and something department, yeah. So it was in that meeting, Kadir himself said we should form a society. And I think we were impressed with that idea, and indeed that was formed. Then when we were going to get the bulletin done, there was the system that was available at the time for quick publication was what is known as the offset printing method. So you get a camera-ready document that is photographed, and then that is what is duplicated to produce the journal. There was a person in the Ministry of Education, was it Dangacho? I don't know if you remember. He's dead now. Anyone who remembers? Dangacho? No. I have it written somewhere, but it was amazing how we went to the ministry with the camera-ready documents, and the smile on his face, and the commitment to help us, and the delivery of what we wanted on time. These are rare things that if you want, that stimulated us, and we were able to produce the bulletin in that way. The producing camera-ready documents. Remember, the computers that you see today were not available then. I think the only technology that was most helpful at the time was something called an IBM Selectric typewriter. It was not electric, it was Selectric. And I think, I don't know, maybe it had a 200 kilobyte memory, something like that. And I remember when we went to Sidney Kilo and asked our vice president for business or finance, and he said, this won't be done, it will not be acquired. We remember we were very much linked in the chemistry department, and that was denied. So we went to the academic vice president, a very dynamic person. He said, such and such. I said, I authorized the purchase of 2 of them. We asked for 1. So 1 went into one office in Arakiro, and the other was made available to us. And so preparing the camera ready document, at least you can have a clean typeface on paper, but as a chemistry manuscript, there are structures to draw, graphs to draw, etc. And in those days, perhaps the most advanced technology through a computerized system was something called Harvard graphics, but we did not have that either. And therefore, the structures were drawn using a plastic template, and so if you put a paper on a table and you start drawing with that, a movement like this can mess you up. So there is actually a holder, like a set square, a big one, and we clamp it on that, and then it has a riding clear plastic, which also served as a ruler, a straight edge, and it was with those that we were able to prepare the graphs and the structures. But the ink and the pen were also important. I guess in those days, there was something called rotary pens. It's a kind of a needle inside it. If you do it, you can see the needle going up and down. So as you write along the circumference, that little circle that there is allows the ink to flow, and that is the one you use to draw structures. Rotary pens were, I think, German made and fairly expensive, and it's the ones that we use. So if you have the first issue, you can see that is how the graphics were done. But once the graphics were done, the offset printing was quite easy, and the ministry assisted us. The other thing I remember was under NAPRECA, I was to go to India to attend a meeting, a UNESCO meeting, and I think it was not easy for us to get funds to go there, but Elias and I had a grant, maybe an Africa grant, maybe a SAREC grant, I don't know when we talked. He said, take our money from the grant and go and attend the meeting and come back. And I did. So when I met a UNESCO official from Paris, and I mentioned the journal and what is needed, it was amazing. He said, when I go back to Paris, I will send you a lot of stuff. I think the discs, not floppy disks, but I think we had enough to last us 100 years. It was so much paper and all kinds of supplies were obtained. And I think Hermes was convinced at saying, you brought back materials worth maybe 2-3 times what was taken from our grant so it's like an investment where the return is good. That was really what happened, yes. So under challenge of producing camera-ready copy, I did my notes here, photo offset publishing, no PowerPoint, Harvard graphics, I have mentioned them. The distribution challenges. I think Professor Shimalis referred to it. In our library, there is, say, the science library, there is phytochemistry or any journal published elsewhere in the world. One copy comes, it is in the Aratkino, and how many people in Ethiopia have access to it? There is only one copy in the library. And therefore my conviction was every high school we must send it. Whether they can read it, whether they understand, that's a different matter. So the distribution must be to every high school in the country, and I think we pretty much did that. Then I negotiated with the Association of African Universities. At that time, the Association of African Universities had 77 member institutions. So I told not the Secretary General, but one of the program officers and said, if I can give you the journal for free, can you raise funds to pay for mailing each issue to every chemistry department in the continent? And that was achieved. That's what gave it publicity. I remember the other aspect that which we were guided by as principle was when we have a submission, an author sends us a paper. Often some of the metrics that are talked about are what is your rejection rate? Rejection rate. In other words, if you have 100 submissions and you reject 90, then you're really taking the top best ones. So it is expected to give an impression that the journal publishes quality papers. My conviction was we shouldn't rush to reject. In other words, what is the weakness of this paper? How do we articulate to the person, to the author who submitted in a most effective and understandable manner what is the weakness of this paper? And in fact, as editor, I felt I should assist these authors to help them to address the major issues that are raised by the referees so the paper becomes publishable. So essentially ignore being attracted by the rejection rate, but rather helping, that is what promotion of the chemical sciences in Africa is about. I want to mention something that one of Professor Remias' students from Nairobi told me not long ago. It will be clear as I tell the story. Once I was a member of the International Foundation of Science team, which was going through Africa, and I accompanied them. We went into one of the Nigerian universities, and because of the prestige that was accorded or regarded, with which the IFS was regarded, we had an appointment with the Vice Chancellor of the university. So we went in, we were seated, the Vice Chancellor was sitting on a high chair across, and we had to introduce ourselves. I did not realize that the Vice Chancellor was one of those authors who actually I helped to publish a paper. And he was looking at me, because I'd never met him, and said, are you also the editor of this Ethiopian journal? I said, yes. And he said, you helped me very much to get my first paper published in the Bulletin. So it was, I don't know if we had a special dinner arranged for us because of that, I don't remember, but it was like a feedback of something that you have done, where you get the feedback maybe 15 years later or 20 years later. But this is true that we really wanted as many of the papers to be published, and we have to work hard. I remember once I was driving from Desi to Addis Ababa. We passed through Tarmabar, and then after that, the road really goes like this. I was driving with my children and my wife. I was driving Renault 4, and the fog had settled in really on the mountain. And as you drive, you see a curve, and so you don't want to go beyond into the Madwad and so let's really focusing our attention how to make that turn correctly. While at the same time, we should also worry that there may be an incoming bus or a truck. So what I remember that night, after I got home, I wanted to sleep. When I tried to sleep, I find myself in the situation of taking that car, worrying not to go over the cliff, at the same time avoid any oncoming bus. So sometimes, whether the graphics that I had written was properly aligned to make the camera ready document, because if you make a little slip, then you have to start all over again. Was the same feeling as that I had when I was remembering taking those nasty curves coming back from the CES. You mentioned about the chemical abstracts. I just want to mention that again. Because one of the ways of really showing that your paper gets good distribution and also readers is to have it abstracted by chemical abstract. At that time, so chemical abstracts in 1907, that is when it started. I wrote to the chemical abstract service and I got a response. The response says it's a huge honor and privilege for you to be covered by chemical abstracts, and therefore you have to pay the subscription fees. My response was, we cannot pay subscription fees, but I think it's also good for chemical abstract service to abstract journals published in Africa. My firm position not to pay but to get it included, paid back, because the person wrote said, all right, we'll do that, we'll abstract, and then we want to be registered as an indefinite subscriber. In other words, it's like subscription forever type thing. So this is another good thing that we got. So we got an indefinite subscription, and we're able to put on the bulletin indexed by it, yeah, and then the other indexing services also. So just 2 or 3 things before I finish. I don't know if you know Robert M. Baxter was, when 4 or 5 of us returned from our PhD studies, he was the head of department. And one of the strategy we used to get known people from outside Ethiopia to publish was to ask them to contribute a material. And Robert Baxter wrote an article which I think is very, very critical. He said, Ethiopians, he said, are, he said probably men of letters, but say people of letters, so legal, religious, philosophical issues they are very much at his with, but not the hard sciences. So he says the decision to publish a chemistry journal must be based on the availability of local and indigenous scientists who can contribute to this paper. And he referred to it as a new era, a new beginning. That was important. And I think Professor Shimele said initially most of the authors were local, and one of our colleagues submitted a paper on biosensors or something like that, and I sent it to a journal edited by someone at Oxford University to review the paper. The paper was reviewed, and the comments were, he said, this is first quality science. What is unfortunate about it, excuse me, what is unfortunate, he said, is we have here a journal called Biosensors. It would have been better read globally if it had been published in this journal. So the editor himself evaluating it and equating it to a quality that would appear in that journal, he said, we were then fortunate to have our own local person to submit an article which was evaluated as a very high standard, and it was published here. So I think when I left, the impact factor may have been 1 or something like that. And so today I read here, it means the impact factor is 2 currently. That's a huge achievement. And I also remember another occasion, and that is in South Africa. There was, in South Africa, they called their Chemical Society, South Africa, SACI, a SACI meeting. And at the SACI executive meeting, the president had a copy of the Ethiopian journal. He said, the Ethiopians can do this. Why are we in South Africa having a difficulty to produce our journal with the same quality and frequency and reliability like that? So again, the Bulletin really has a much higher rating than many journals. One of them, I had written here, chemists to none, not to. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Chemists to none, not to. Chemists to none, not to is an article written by Johannes Balcha. Johannes Balcha, I think I must have met him once, but I've talked about him maybe 1,000 times. Johannes Balcha wrote an article called Chemists to Nanatu, which appeared not in the journal, but in the solutions. And I believe it was republished again not long ago. One other article we wrote was the first Ethiopian chemist. And again, we were 14 or so in our batch, my classmates. 1 year senior, Babas was Tarrakai, and in his class there were only two. One was Felix Young E. Ogu, a Nigerian, and Felix did not graduate 1 year before us because in room 131, I think that's where the balances used to be kept behind the glass. He did a kind of a diazonium salt, and the time was 1:15. 1:15. He went to the balance room, and he had a petri dish with what he had prepared. He took a spatula. As he was trying to put the spatula in the powder to put it on the measuring thing, it exploded. Oh, I heard the explosion from my little living place near Tasfa Gabraselassie Matamevet, and that was Parliament Day. And I thought this was, they're shooting the cannons to celebrate Parliament Day. So at 2 o'clock I went to the department, there was a lot of commotion, and I thought Felix had an accident. I think he lost a finger, He lost a finger, did not much more. So that was the first batch. And we were in the second batch. Before that, who was the chemist? There was someone called Petros Gabre. Petros Gabre did partly chemistry, partly biology, so we can't say he's really a full-fledged chemist. So as far as Haile Selassie University earlier, or Addis Ababa University earlier, the first graduate from Ethiopia could not be any of these. As we were looking through, we said there was a maths teacher called Alamu Malaku. And when I talked to him, he said yes, he had a degree in chemistry. Then he went to maths, but he said there is someone working at ECA who had a chemistry degree, and you might want to inquire there. While all this was happening, Ulurk Haile, the secretary of Haile Rule, said, Haile Gwade is the first chemist. He graduated from Howard, and he was deputy minister in the Ministry of Health. When Tafarra one day came as a revolutionary, he retired a whole lot of people. Haile Gwade was retired, and he was essentially a bummer with his jacket and maybe drinking. So I asked Troll, can he come? And I'd like to see him. The next day he came, he had just shaved and cleaned up, and we decided that it would be nice to have the first chemist in our department. And we got even, initially we had some funds, but the university hired him. And he wrote an article about essentially a biography how he studied chemistry. And it's a very interesting article, the same time as Mangasha Siyum from Tigray, and many people were sent for education overseas. Hailu was sent to Ramallah, Palestine. So he said the children of the nobility go to good schools, and the pedestrians were sent to Ramallah, Palestine. But then Israel was about to be established, the state, the nation of Israel, and they were fighting, and so the Ethiopian government decided to look after the safety of Ethiopians, and he was relocated to McGill University. He studied his chemistry and he came back, and in those days when you come back, you actually present yourself to Sa Majesté, and he is the one who tells you where to work. And so the emperor told him, you studied Kamama, so የሀገራችን ከርሰ ምድር ብዙ ነገሮች ሊኖራት ይችላል፣ እሱን ፈላርገህ ጥይት ስራ፣ ጥይት ፋብሪካ መድረሻለሁ ተባለ። The way Hailu tells the story, the ጥይት fabrika, which is just where Tumbaumano is around there, he said they didn't even have a lab to do any work at all. So Kalaha was imported, the powder was imported, it was stuffed in there and the cup was, that was all that he done. So he was not satisfied and unsuccessful, and so he was relocated to, he was made to work at Pasteur Institute. At Pasteur Institute, it was led by an Italian. He called the name, Italians are very easy with calling someone professor who is not a professor. And so Professor Sensi was in charge, and samples from people, Shin, Dem, etc., Maramara. And once apparently the urine of Girmawi Gemanan was sent to Pasteur for Marmara, and Hailu had impressed Professor Sensi with his ability to weigh small quantities using an analytical balance, apparently a skill that Professor Sensi felt Ethiopians would never have such skills. But he was so impressed, he actually gave him the Empress's unit to analyze. So this was a huge lift of morale. But the point I'm trying to make here is a chemist was trained, he brought back his country, his mother country, did not know how to use it. So the poem by Johannes Balcha, Chemistuna Natu, actually describes a similar situation. Contextually it's different, but it's like his mother, what are you studying? Are you studying medicine? No, that is called such and such. Engineer, engineer name. So he couldn't explain what chemistry is to his mom. At one point he said, Medanit Kamama, Magrum no. Doesn't matter what is the Galamishaka Shika, that is another day, Medanit is arriving at the Malak. No. And his answer was, no, Mama, soon Madam. So, Mundi no that. So the same thing that happened to Aigwate, also in that poem, happened to the chemistry student and his mother. I think I may have overstayed, I apologize for that, but that is all I can tell you. I thank you for your attention.
So I think the continuation, Professor
The panel discussion session. Very short presentation for about 10 minutes. So first thing is what subject area we cover. So at the very beginning, as Professor Paranu mentioned, we started in 1987. So at that time we have only 4 streams: analytical, inorganic, organic and physical. Later on, when we started getting manuscript from environmental area, we started also the 5th one from 2007. previously we had this 5-1, but now suggestion has been made that since these days chemistry has many applied area, one of the main important one is the material chemistry, what is called the materials. So new materials which are characterized using the chemical analysis and so on. So in our case we called as material chemistry. So we have also started included this the sixth one as a subject area to be covered from this year. This year means now we are ahead of the 24, means our first publication will be in 2025, which is already ready. It will be out online on Friday. So that is the subject area. Then so what is the status of the bulletin presently now? So our journal is recognized both national as well as international levels, and I give some numbers here. Up to the end of September 2024, means this year, total number of manuscript is 4456 we have evaluated, out of which now 2896 were rejected, and the published one or accepted one is 1560. Based upon this, now you can see our acceptance rate is about 35%. The last, before in July, we published the 100 issue of the bulletin. Now, last month we presented and published 101 issue, which is now 30th volume. So, all in all, now if you compare the mean value of the articles per issue, it is 15.45. Remember at that time when we started the first issue, we had about 8 papers, 2 in each stream, roughly. So this trend continue until the 10th anniversary almost. So 9 article per issue, that means about 16-17 per year. So I remember now by 10th anniversary we published 169 papers. So on the average you can see 16.9 is 17 manuscripts per year, means 8, 9 per issue. So, but now this is the value is overall mean from the first issue up to the last issue. So we are publishing now about 15.4, means about 16 articles per issue. So as already mentioned, we are indexed in one of the main criteria for getting manuscript from all over the world is our journal indexed in Scopus. That is considered as a reputable. So our journal has been registered in Scopus, and before 2000, in fact, 1998, it has been indexed from Scopus. Also in the ISI, which is International Science Index, chemical abstract, of course, that was the primary source when the paper published. We used to go to the library and see whether our paper published or not. At that time, remember, there are 3 sources to know whether paper is published or not, because we don't get those journals here. So chemical abstract was the main source. There was at that time also we had this analytical abstract. So since my field is analytical, we used to go there, and later on there was another one, indexing one, what was called as the current issues, current country, sorry. So that has 2, physical sciences and biological sciences. So we used to check this, whether our paper published in which journal, which issue, and like this. So these are the case. Now presently our journal is online, Azure, African Journal Online. So it is indexed there, and also we have registered in the DOAG, what is called the Directory of the Open Access Journal. So these are the indexing service what we are publishing. Another one is citation metrics. So H index of our journal presently is 32. I don't know about the journal H index. As far as the article index is concerned, the H index 32 means 32 paper has more citation of 32 or more. So whether it is applicable to the journal H index, I am not very sure. So our citation score is 2.2. The impact factor is 1.3. This is searching from ISI or Thomson written impact factor, and my colleague Professor Ravi suggested that World of Science impact factor is 1.4 in 2023. So this is the, a good sign of our reputability internationally. Because many of even the Eastern European country and most of the African they don't have this much impact factor. Presently our tutorial staffs we have 6. Myself as an editor-in-chief, then we have from each stream analytical Professor Vera Gure from Jimma University. Our environmental manuscript, we have Dr. Kabete Mukose Astu, that is Addis Ababa University of Science and Technology. Then we have inorganic one, Professor Ho Sun Min is from International University Malaysia. He is representing the inorganic. Then Professor Rabi recently recruited the material chemistry. Organic one is by our colleague in the chemistry department here, Dr. Kiprum Gebrehiwal. And physical one is represented by Dr. Daniel Menai. Previously was in Dr. Burhan University, but now he's in Taiwan. So beside this, we have editorial manager recently promoted, Ms. Sharon Dereze, which was previously editorial assistant, and we have recruited a new editorial assistant, Ms. Kalkidan Hivas. He was here around that. So this is about our present editorial staff. The review process, we are actually getting very large number of manuscripts which are not able to handle very immediately. So we have 3 levels of rejection. At the very beginning, when the manuscript receipt, which looks like outside the main chemistry stream, it is directly rejected by our editorial staff without sending to the associate editor. Like for example, if some material is dropped by some, let's say, cadmium or palladium, and looking its tensile strength, it's not chemistry, it is mechanical engineering. So such manuscript directly reject without restrict. Similarly, now somebody put some medicine in the rat and looking the growth of the rat, or some new fertilizer, something put on the plant and looking the plant growth. We don't consider this as chemistry. So those manuscripts are the first type of manuscript rejected directly. Then those who are worth considering sent to the appropriate associate editor. They internally review. If it is not found worth lack of depth in the content of the manuscript, they recommend rejection, so we reject it without sending to the peer reviewer. Then if it is found worth, then we say to the reviewer, presently we ask the author, since we have a large number of manuscripts, we don't have enough our own reviewers, so we request the author to submit 5 reviewers at the time of submission. We send the manuscript, simply the invitation first. If they said okay, we review, we send the full text of the manuscript, and if we get at least 2 or 3, minimum 2, but mostly 3 reviewer comment. So if the comments are negative, we reject them directly without asking the author to revise. But if they said a major revision or minor revision required, reviewers comment as well as the associated comments, we send to the author to revise. Revised manuscript will be further reviewed by associate editor in the field. If they said okay, we accept it, we send the acceptance letter. If sometimes there is major revision and reviewers have already indicated that I would like to see the revised manuscript once again, so we send back to the reviewers the revised manuscript. If they still insist some revision required, for the 3rd time we send back to the author and make it revised. If they said this revision is okay, we accept it. Once we accept, we send the acceptance letter, and these days, since from 2022, we have already started article processing charge for the manuscript outside the sub-Saharan African countries. So once the manuscript is accepted, we request the author to pay the ABC, which is now USD 200. Now the new exchange rate of the society is 0 each. So this is about the publication process. Then if the manuscript found worthy, then we consider it as I mentioned already. So once the APC is, the money is, payment is received, we prepare the book and send to the author. We insert the correction and the manuscript is now ready for publication. So once publication, now since Azure does not publish individual article based on the issue, so we have fixed a certain number. Previously, for the last 4 or 5 years, we fixed the number 20 articles. Once we reach 20 articles, we complete one issue. We send the table of content to the Azure. They sign the DOI, and then we publish online. So this is how publication is done. So presently now, since from this year means I'm referring 2025, we have started to publish monthly. So up to 2027 means up to 20 volume of the bulletin, we have only 2 issues per year. Then we increase to 3, that goes up to another 15 years, means up to 35th volume. Then at that time, still since we have very large number of the manuscript, we increase the volume that we issued before. Within 1 year, we got more, we increased to 6. Still we have workload, we increase now monthly. So this is how the things are getting. But now the challenges. Challenges, as you say, the lack of preparedness to handle the large number of the manuscript. Many of the manuscripts in the past particularly got rejected because we could not get reviewed on time. There are still presently, by the way, some of the associate editors should consider very few, at least 10% of the manuscript are still 8 months or 10 months older. Somehow, for one reason or another, could not get reviewed on time. So this is one of the challenge now. So since sometimes author want to get published very soon, if it is more than 6 months, they try to withdraw. So this is the situation now, but present in the past now, since our editorial board was not very properly functioning, there was no incentive. Without incentive, people are elected to give the free service. So this was also one of the challenge. In order to solve this, at that time, remember, before 3 years, Chemical Society was practically bankrupt. There was no money at all. So as a result, people were not willing to give the free service. Even some of the people say, living in outskirts of Addis Ababa, they say, unless you pay the transport, how can I come? So this was the case, and this is the one who forced us to charge the article processing charge to introducing the September 2022, means manuscript received from onwards. This really solved one of the big problems. So as a result of this, now with particularly with the present exchange rate, which is now I think around 120 per dollar, so one manuscript from the outside sub-Saharan country is about 20,000 or even 24,000. So society is getting rich now. I think this organization, this work, this panel discussion is also because we have enough money. Because some years we are not able to even conduct the Congress because there was no money at all. I think I remember from 34th annual Congress up to some 4 or 5 years there was no Congress at all due to the lack of money. So we make this now 12 issue per year. First issue will be coming on Friday. So to handle this, we have appointed a new editorial assistant and presently promoted the previous one to editorial manager. So this is the case with this finance, we are standing on our own. Otherwise, we are only depend upon the donation. Now there was problem up to first 20 years. We are getting appropriate donation from some. Sometimes we got American Chemical Society, Italian Chemical Society, also INAS and so on. But after 20 volume, they said now you should stand your own. It's not initial stage. So that's how this 3-4 years before, we suffered a lot, lack of finance and so on. So this helped much. Now we are in much better position. Another question raised by somebody that why local contribution is very low. So presently we have less than 20%. So for example, if you have some 20 paper publishing previously, some not more than 3 or 4 articles per issue. In this case, I don't know how to answer this question, but if you allow me to speak in a proverb, I can say something. In my own language, घर की मुर्गी साग बराबर. Meaning, chicken at home is like Costa, while chicken at outside is like chicken. Costa outside is like chicken. So people have this perception. Oh, this is local norm. So one of the criterion for Ministry of Education for journal evaluation is this: is the journal local or international? So even some of the international journal which has impact factor 0.5 or 0.75, people prefer to that because they fulfill the requirement for promotion and other. While our impact factor is much better. So this is the psychological perception why we are not getting. Secondly, now what measure we should take to encourage now? We don't take any measure to handle this case. Instead of this, we try to upgrade our status. If our journal has more reputable, manuscript automatically grow. So both from the local as well as international. By the way, we never make any report to get manuscript from international and local. Yes, from the time I took over. Manuscript start flowing and we are not able to handle ourselves. This was the situation. So other thing now, so it has become international, encouraging local, sometimes it will undermine in the sense, some of the local journal, for example, there are 3 from our campus. This is Senate and Biological Journal of Biological Society of Ethiopia. Senate, many times there was big crisis. And recently again to cope with the number of issues, they are publishing only 4 or 5 articles, which is below the requirement of Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education say at least as a reputable journal, minimum 10 articles per issue should be published. But recently I saw some 2-3 years before they are publishing only 4 or 5 articles per issue. Same thing, Biological Society journal lagging behind. I have also got some data from this. There is journal published from other university, I think it is Ethiopian Journal of Science and Technology. So they have also similar 4 or 5 articles. So this is really the encouraging because mostly their paper is from local people and local people do not get. Now one of the local advantage is it is used for promotion. So people who are taking the promotion and since local journals are recognized, they prefer it there because it is very fast and other. So this is particularly true for Senate for our campus. Presently, I think. So localization also will return back to this financial crisis because we are publishing free of charge for the local. So that's why we don't encourage it, but whatever the local article comes, we encourage, we process properly, we don't reject. We give equal consideration. So already now another one is how to further increase visibility. So one of the Azure is already open access journal, anyone can download free of charge. At the same time, we have this directory of open access journal. 2012 we registered there, our table of content and abstract were published there. But later on 2017, I think it is based in Sweden, there was change in the administration of the DOIG and this thing got disrupted. We contacted several times but could not get how to reach this state. Presently we have this, one of our AU staff member in computer science is local representative for the DOIG. We contacted him how to restart, but we did not succeed to get it back from him. If it is done, we will further upload the abstract and the table of content there. So that is about the DOIG case now. So this is Another is so many. The question is, if we increase the now, since we are publishing monthly, will it increase the impact factor? So impact factor does not depend upon the number of articles. It depends upon the number of citations per article get. So it is increasing the number of publication or article does not mean increase the impact factor. It is the quality of the article. I'll give one example of my own. So you see, we have a paper 2017 published in a zero impact factor. It has 180 citations up to today. In the same journal, we published another paper, but it has only 5. So it depends upon the subject area of the article. You know, that paper was based on the removal of chromium from the 10 rings, and this subject was quite hot topic, and people are getting cited in this. So it is the subject matter that determines the number of citations, not the number of articles. Even by the way, the impact factor, even if you publish in very high impact journal, your citation may be not much. I have also some paper published in high impact journal, but it may be some 20, 30 like that. So impact factor, I mean the citation depends on the quality, not on the journal impact factor, neither on the quality, I mean simply the number of articles per issue. So this, particularly if you are dealing with the health issue, environmental issue, food quality, these are the subject area which receive more attention. Paper published in this area get more citation. So for those people who are involved, when you select your topic for the research, you have to give this consideration. It is the quality of the article that determines the number of citations, not the journal impact factor. So finally, I would like to acknowledge our authors and reviewers, associate editor in the past up to the present, editorial manager, CSE members, EC members, donors, the BCS reader, promoter, and chemistry department. Without chemistry department, it would have not reached this stage. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think you have a feedback.
For sure, will tell us details, and I wanted to that, and I wanted to slightly change the title which was given to me. So the topic is National System of Journal Evaluation and Accreditation. The reason why I choose this topic is because the Ethiopian Science Academy made a study in the year 2017 and published a Bulletin, and since then the Ministry of Education took it up, the recommendation of the Ethiopian Academy of Science, and institutionalized a system of evaluation and accreditation. Yes, the Bulletin of Chemical Society of Ethiopia is a journal which is indexed, and therefore might not required to pass through this process. Previously, yes, it was the first guideline that was expected for every journal to pass through this evaluation system. But the guideline is modified by the Ministry of Education, and therefore those journals with impact factor are not required to go through the evaluation process. So what I'm going to do here, therefore, is to just give you briefly what Ethiopian Academy of Sciences is, because I see fellows in this audience who are members of the Academy, and there are also many young prospective fellows. And I wanted them to know a bit about the Academy. So this is where we are located. We are located around Aulos. This building is a heritage center. It is a building, it is heritage center because it was a house of Latin Gate Haile Selassie, who was one of the known person in this country. He was a foreign minister and he was the mayor of Addis Ababa, and he wrote over 25 books. And this compound is a compound which was visited. Therefore, I invite all of you to come and visit the academy. So it was launched in 2010 and recognized by proclamation 2013, and it is autonomous and non-governmental institution. It's a very merit-based association. There were 49 founding members, but currently we have over 291. And there are 3 categories: regular fellows, associate and honorary fellow, and these are the criteria. There are 4 main criteria. The vision is to be the premier organization in Ethiopia for advancement of science culture, and its mission is to foster scientific culture, knowledge and innovation for societal development. Our main objective mission is to create consensus studies and also evidence-based policy advice, promote science, technology and innovation, and also to popularize science in general. Saying this as what Ethiopian Academy of Sciences is, let me briefly tell you 3 points as to how the national system for journal evaluation was developed and being practical these days. So the main rationale for national system of journal evaluation and accreditation in Ethiopia are indicated here: to promote excellence in scholarship with Ethiopians, to promote international standards in journal publishing, to set up uniform standard for journal repeatability, to establish core list of accredited journals in Ethiopia, to identify challenges and solutions in journal publishing, and to foster links between texts and do not have impact factor. Therefore, they may not be used for promotion, and also, as you all know, for graduate students these days, we require a publication, and the publication has to be published, that have to be published in a journal likely to have impact factor, and that is the reason why such system is said to be established. So the outcome and impact of evaluation is the journal evaluation has a direct impact on its repeatability and visibility. This is one. The second one is the result of the evaluation will also influence the underlying research and the author in terms of quality of research, securing research grant and staff promotion, and improvement in the research environment. So some of the features in the current journal evaluation practice are indicated here. No national system for ensuring Ethiopian research journal meet minimum international standards. That's why there are only few journals that are indexed. The eligible number of Ethiopian journals able to register in prestigious international indexing database, which is one of the requirements for a journal to have impact factor. The variance in journal evaluation practice, even among journal publishing university, is also different, and this is one important factor. Journal evaluation practices failure to assign great value, weight to journal content and peer review qualities. Different universities do have an evaluation system, not for accreditation, but for use in promotion. For example, if there are journals that are permitted for promotion, for example, at Addis Ababa University, I know at Addis Ababa University have criteria to evaluate journals whenever staff submit articles for promotion. And this criteria is different from one university to the other, and therefore such evaluation at the national level will standardize the total evaluation process and the practice. So what are the key actors for managing journal accreditation system that is recommended by the Academy and then taken up by the Ministry of Education? One is there have to be an agent that accredits the evaluated journals, and there have to be an evaluating institutions. The Ethiopian Academy of Science was given that mandate to evaluate the journals, and those that pass through the criteria were given recommended to the ministry to be accredited, and the Academy did the first and the second round, and in the first round the Academy evaluated 37 journals and 17 were accredited, and in the second one 38 were evaluated and 21 were accredited. Since then the Ministry of Education already took it up, and now there is another institution that is doing the accreditation, which we are not happy with it because it's not legal like the Academy did. So why Ministry of Education act as an accrediting agent? See, this is a point that I will get. In the interest of time, let's just go to the next one. So what are the procedural steps in the evaluation and accreditation process? The first one is accrediting agents will call for application, in this case Ministry of Education. And publishers, internal assessment of the applicant journal, there is a guideline for that, and each publisher have to assess itself. It can be a society or a university or research organizations. Then submission of the applicants with the required information and documents, selection and orientation of peer-reviewed expert panels, and external evaluation of eligible applicant journal, that's what is done. And finally, dissemination of the list of accredited journals by the rank. Ranking is also there. And the final one was updating core list based on monitoring and feedback. So what are the criteria for eligibility to apply for accreditation? The first one is have the aim of publishing original research article. This is one. It should have its head office and be published in Ethiopia. This is a requirement. And it should have published at least 3 consecutive volumes. Interruption is not allowed, and have Ethiopians among its editors, and be accessible to Ethiopian scholarly contributions. So application submission requirement are the following: editor-in-chief's signed letter of application creation, 2 copies of each volume published in the last 3 years have to be submitted, complete description information about the journal is required, copies of policies and guidelines of the journal is also a requirement, name and scholarly profiles of the editors and the board members are also required, review reports of each article and profile of each reviewer is also required, and the report of internal assessment of each of the 3 volumes is also a requirement, and finally a signed letter from head of the journal publishing units have to be submitted. And once all these criteria are submitted, then in the previous case, the Academy picks it up and process evaluation. So the volume of the journal is evaluated, and articles in the journal is also evaluated. If it is a journal is biannual, 2 articles per journal go through the re-evaluation process. If that, in the case of Bulletin, it's 12. Bulletin is, because it's indexed, it's not required. But as per this guideline, because it's publishing every month, then it is required to have 2 articles per issue to be published. So these are the general criteria. The details we have the detailed guideline at the Academy. The first one is scholarly quality of the research article, competency of reviewers and critical review of the reviewer, editor's scholarly profile, editorial board member scholarly profile is also considered, timeline of the journal publication, number of diversity of articles per issue, enrichment and integrity is also considered, editorial policy is also looked into, distribution of journal and mode of access to full text is also the other point. Registration in the international reputable indexing and abstracting database is also one of the criteria. Basic publishing standards are also looked into, and journal layout and compliance with scholarly norm of scientific writing is also considered. So these are some of the points, and these are also scored and weight is given. So let me not go into that. There are also minimum aggregate score for accreditation, which is indicated. So the evaluation cycle is as indicated here. Usually every journal that is accredited have to re-evaluate it every 6 months. Once it's released, this is a requirement. And journal evaluation process, there is internal evaluation and external evaluation, as I already said. When we did the evaluation process, it takes almost 1 year, and that was one of the complaints that is given by the ministry, and that's the reason why they consider it and give it to the other institutions. But I hear these days we hear that the way how it is evaluated is not rigor as we do it at the academy level. Once that is done, then there is the accrediting agency, in this case the Ministry of Education, have a post-accreditation task to evaluate and re-evaluate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, the audience, for stretching the limit of this